My name is Justin DeVore. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're listening in from. And today's webinar, we are going to go through, so you've received a point cloud. Now what do we do with it? Okay. A lot of the industry is starting to use these a lot more and more and more. And some of the comments we have been getting from some of our customers is, hey, this is way too big. And what can I do with it? Is there any way you can help out here? So we'll go through a few tips today, kind of cover some of those. And yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to put those on the chat. I'll get to them. I'm the only one monitoring this today, so just be patient with me. All right, so me, as I mentioned, my name is Justin DeVore. I'm a senior reality capture specialist here at ATG. I've been with ATG over 5 years now. My background is in civil engineering. That's what I did right out of college. And I also did surveying for 3 years, and I'm also a drone pilot as well. And picture's a little outdated. I kind of gave up on the hair, so I shaved it off and grew out my beard. Okay. So today, what are we going to be covering? So some of the learning objectives we're going to do today are learn about how you can how a registered point cloud should look and should be organized. So those of you on the phone that are doing the scanning or those that are receiving the scanning, you might want to mention to those doing it like, hey, Justin showed me this thing, how it should be organized. I feel like this would help, and feedback always helps with that kind of stuff. We'll also go through some tips within Recap that could help you on save time modeling. We'll take a look at some different workflows for some different softwares. Primarily, I have queued up right now Revit, and then we could jump into AutoCAD, but kind of depending on how the chat goes and things like that, we could switch over to some civil and some other things as well. And then also just some built-in tools within some of the softwares to be able to do that. Okay. And just a couple housekeeping items. So if you haven't checked out our YouTube page or follow us on LinkedIn, there's stuff going on daily. Like this webinar is going to be recorded or is being recorded, and will be probably hosted on YouTube by the end of the day, if not tomorrow. So if you want a refresher, you can go back to that. And then we also have shorter videos as well, just like 2 to 3 minute clips, kind of going through specific workflows. So go and check those out. And here's kind of a screenshot of what I was talking about on the YouTube page. I took a screenshot of this yesterday. So you can see tons of different playlists available on the channel. So one in particular I've been contributing to per my department is the reality capture down there at the bottom toward the middle. But whatever your specialty may be, whatever your niche in this world, there might be something in here worth checking out. Okay. And then also, probably heard about this before, want to give a quick plug to our hardware partner for BIMbox. It truly is a great machine. We had a handful of these at AU there in Vegas for everybody to kind of test out and things like that. And that's also what I'm running all my point cloud stuff with as well, is on a BIMbox. So go and contact if you're kind of struggling dealing with some of this data sizes and things like that. Okay, so some of you may have attended my last webinar about 3 weeks ago, where we dove into different technologies within reality capture. We discussed different scanners, Lidar versus drones versus stereo photogrammetry, and some of those other things, just kind of getting us a broad perspective of the different options available to us and knowing some of the differences. Like we had talked today we'll primarily be dealing with Lidar, but we can go through some drone footage as well, depending on how questions and things like that go. But so I was thinking we kind of, this be a good place to start as far as how we get it from planning and then into Revit and AutoCAD and other software and things like that. So here we have a floor plan of a warehouse. So let's go ahead and start planning this out to look like, and then this will give us a nice frame of reference for when we take a look at the point cloud within recap of what those mirror balls represent. On the left, you can see here, I've kind of marked out 2 X's represent 2 different Lidar scanners that we're, taking to this imaginary job. So the red X is going to be our bigger scanner like the RTC 360 or P40, P series, whereas a smaller scanner might be something like the BLK 360, for example. So a lot of times I will take multiple scanners on jobs depending on what needs capture. So some of the difference will be speed, also file size, and then more importantly, kind of for this purpose, it'll be range as well. Okay. So here's kind of a sample of scanning locations. Now you notice I have scans in all the different doorways you see, and that helps with point cloud registration. And what registration is, just kind of refamiliarize yourself with it, is just kind of how one scan links to another. And then as those link to the next one and link to the next one, that's how we're able to get a full point cloud that's accurate. So having a scan in every doorway is important for that, to meet those numbers and meet that accuracy. Because if you can kind of imagine, if you're standing in that doorway, roughly about 50%, if not like 48, 49% of the scanner scanning, say, we'll take a look at one of these outside ones here, 50% will be scanning inside and the other 50% will be scanning outside. So that would be good ways to tie in both exterior and interior scans. Also moving throughout like these little offices we have here, the different rooms, to be able to tie those in. So this is kind of what we can kind of expect to see. Notice that we have a few of we did the X's along the outside, or the big red ones, because that has the most range. So it made most sense to be outside. But we also took a few of them to be inside as well. Like these ones in the middle here, should be able to see it across the entire warehouse. Okay. And then also there's a new device like it came out with last November, I think it was. So it's almost a year old already, and time's flying. So that's a mobile Lidar unit. It's kind of a walk behind. So as you can see, there's no stations or no setups. Really what I've kind of traced out here is a walking path. Okay, so you're kind of walking behind the scanner and it starts to kind of fill in details. It looks a little different, and the accuracy is still within, I want to say half an inch, if not down to a couple millimeters, whereas tripod-based Lidar units, those will be down to sub-millimeter in some cases. So we'll take a look at some of those examples. And then also so kind of the 3 devices we're kind of looking at in examples today, the BLK 360, RTC 360, and BLK to go. So on this previous slide here, previous 2 slides, we'll just say the RTC 360 was this one in red, and then the BLK 360 is the blue X, and then the BLK to go is this green line, okay, for reference. Okay, so we did so we have all these devices here at ATG that I've been using on jobs. And we did a white paper. You can check that out on our website. that's just a Leica white paper. And what we did was basically scan the same space with all the different devices. And then we notated number of scans, how long it took, processing time, and then also file sizes and things like that. So feel free to jump on, check it out. It's down here at the bottom, hegusa.com/Leica-white-paper. Yeah, so this is just kind of a snippet from that article. As we can kind of see here, if we kind of break it down, we'll notice that the file size is the largest for the RTC 360. And without diving too far into the details, the RTC 360 on its high settings will do 2 million points per second, okay? So that's a lot of information to be going back and forth. And whereas the BOK 360 on its very highest settings will only do 360,000 points per second. So still tons and tons of information. That's just kind of one thing to consider. Say you're looking to purchase one of these devices, maybe for your own use, that'd be something to look into. Like, okay, now I want this now I want this piece of hardware. Now, can my machines handle that? You know, do I need to invest in more hard drive space or upgrade my desktop? Things like that. And then also time in the field. As you can imagine, the BLK to go was a lot faster because it's a walk-along device versus setting up a tripod in each of those locations. But the transfer time does take a little while there. So anyway, that's kind of a breakdown there. And here's kind of a little snippet of some point cloud examples. So we have the RTC 360. Basically what I did was zoomed in on the point clouds and on targets that we had laid out to be able to showcase these. So this is the same target in each of the scans. As you can see with the RTC 360, with the 2 million points per second, you can really see a lot of detail here. We can pretty much clearly define the edges of that target. Now the BOK 360, not as dense, remember, because even in its high settings, it's only doing 360,000 points per second. But still, a lot of detail, very clear to where those targets meet. And then the BOK to go, you see that this kind of has a different looking pattern. It's still showing it pretty accurately, but the point cloud looks like this because as the scanner's going around full 360, it's also the gyro motion of it is, I would kind of say, like, take the sun path, for example. You know, over courses of time, the sun isn't always going the same path, right? It's further up in the northern hemisphere or it's further south, right? So that's kind of similar to how the BOK to go looks. I actually have an example of that here. So let's take a look at a BOK to go. Here we're in recap. I have a point cloud that we scanned out here in Phoenix. That's where I'm based out of. And you can see, so we got the wall nicely defined, but you can see that the pattern looks a lot different than what we're used to. So this is kind of what I was talking about with the BLK to go, how it looks a little different. But when we kind of get into it, really zoom in on this wall, we see that the points are accurate. So even though they look a little odd, you know, they were able to capture that that wall accurately. So hopefully that helps. And let's switch back to this. Oops. Oh, here we go. There we go. All right. So any questions before we kind of move on to some live demo stuff, kind of what we do with point clouds for now. Let me kind of catch up on the chat here. So looks like Denise and Doug and Jacqueline all use Civil 3D. Stephen, mechanical. Eric, AutoCAD and Revit. We got structural on here as well, transportation, civil 3D. Okay. Okay, cool. Yeah, so with all the civil people we have online, we'll probably do a little more drone stuff as well, so we can kind of get some bigger size, but we got plenty of time to be able to cover all that. Okay. All right, so let's go and switch over to recap and then into Revit, and then we'll jump over to site scan and maybe bring some stuff into Civil 3D and AutoCAD. So a couple things what we're going to be taking a look at is number one, how a point cloud should be organized to be able to use within Civil 3D and AutoCAD and Revit a little easier. Also tips to help save on modeling time, and then we'll also go through and model a few elements, and then I'll also kind of show a little tip on how we can duplicate parts of a point cloud. Find that to be pretty neat. So let's go and dive into recap here. So I'm going to go and close out of this Be Okay to Go scan. As you can see, it's mostly just the exterior that we did this walk, as well as walk through the courtyard here of this house. Okay. Okay, we'll give this a second to load. Okay. Okay, so here we have a fully registered point cloud of a 3-story warehouse and a basement. This is out in, I think it's either Memphis or Nashville, out there in Tennessee. I'll have to, it's probably not important right now, but it's out that way. So let's go and start with scan locations. So you can see here, this is organized a little different. So we've been grouping all the scans in different sections and organizing them. So if we turn off the basement, well, let's turn off the exterior first. So if we turn off the exterior, we see that one. And then we also have a, so if we turn off the first floor as well, and second floor, and we can see this start to go, things start going away. So all the roof scans had those additional ones. As you can see, the roof scans up here, again, remember our slide earlier where we were looking at these locations of the scanner. Our scanning tech took them to the edge of the building so that he could have nice overlap into this parking lot and adjacent buildings, okay? So we'll go and turn off the roof. And we'll just, we'll leave the stairs. Okay. We'll just focus on the first floor for now. Okay. And we'll go and turn off the mirror balls for now. Okay, so now we've just isolated the first floor. We see there's a bunch of points we could be cleaning up here because again, we have a lot on the exterior. So this might be something as we get this isolated, we might want to move these to the exterior scans and or remove them off the first floor. Again, we got plenty of overlap. Oops, I'm doing real view there. I switched to one of the photos, so bear in mind. Okay. So we can kind of take a look at what it looks like outside the building as well. Okay. All right, so we'll kind of get into why it's important to organize this. Not only is it beneficial for us, but as those putting these point clouds together to be able to handle this kind of data and be able to turn on and off different pieces. But we'll see what it looks like bringing it in as well. Actually, let's go ahead and do that now. So let's jump over into Revit and we'll just start a new project. architectural template. While this is opening, Brian has a question. You do the cleanup after registration. If not, will cleaning up the overlap to affect the registration? Typically, I'll do cleanup after registration, and mostly because of that, so I have more points, and I get the registration report. If we take a look, jump back into recap here. If we go take a look at the report, we can take a look at this overlap and balance in number of points and things like that. So we can identify different areas that we may have low numbers that we might be concerned about into those. So and some of them may make sense, like looks like this is gonna be some stair scans. So they're down into the 50% and things like that. But yeah, as I go through cleaning up my point cloud, basically what we can do here is we'll just turn, actually, let's go to a smaller section. Let's just isolate a stair. All right, that's not as, okay. So something like this, after I got that registered in together, I will go through and isolate individual scans. And typically what I like to do this, as I go through cleanup, depending on what I'm trying to deliver, if size is going to be very important, I may try to clean up as many unnecessary points as possible. But also you notice you get a lot of whitewashing depending on where the scans are at. This is a prime example for if you're in a lobby area, or in a hallway, working your way outside, the interior is going to show nice color like we see here from this one scan location. But looking out the windows, we're going to have a lot of whitewashing here. So I would turn on that scan and basically kind of get rid of all the unnecessary points and or trim off some of the other ones as well. Because if we turn off this scan and turn on another one, we see the color improving. And there's different settings on your scanners, whether you want it to take HDR images. And HDR means high dynamic range. So what that basically does is, like I said, we're kind of jumping around here, but that's all right. We'll kind of take a look. All right. Oh, this doesn't have a great example, but so if we're taking a look at the RTC here, the very front of it, there's 3 different cameras, one pointing up, one pointing out, one pointing down, and that helps us get our 360-degree panoramic view for those images there. And so with the high dynamic range, what it does for each of those cameras, it'll take 3 photos. So one with low exposure, one with high exposure, and one with medium exposure. And basically what those would do is from that location, we would see a really dark scan, a really bright whited out, and then also maybe kind of an in-between of those. And basically what the HDR does is analyzes those 3 and decides which picture to put in that scan location. Okay, so turning on HDR takes more time, scanning time out in the field, but that's how you can help get rid of some of this whitewashing as well when you get to some areas like that. Okay. And got another question from John. What product are you using to register the scan data? So a lot of different scanner types like Faro and some of the Leica scanners have their own software, like Faro has Scene. And then Leica has Register 360, but also the BOK 360 has a direct link to Recap Pro for mobile. So we can go straight from the field registering with Recap and right into Recap itself. Let's take a look at this property here. So yeah, this is one registration I'll use, but I'll also do registration within Recap as well. So sometimes I will bring this in into the software without registering it. We'll just go ahead and show what I'm going to talk about here. And then I'll just do an immediate export to E57 and then bring that into Recap. So kind of depend what my deliverable is when I'm looking to move that over, especially if we don't have a lot of licenses, you know, so that might be something to take in consideration. If you buy, say like an RTC 360, you would get a license of Register 360 with your purchase, but you may have more than one person on your team handling scans. So, you know, you could buy additional licenses, additional seats of Register 360, or you could export them to E57 and then bring those into Recap. And if we take a look at the import, you can see the different file types it accepts. So Recap takes a lot of different file types, and that's always what I recommend bringing any point cloud in before you bring it to any of your Autodesk software. So if you guys have heard me before, I kind of always mention this, but I feel it's worth mentioning, but I kind of view Recap Pro as the Rosetta Stone for point clouds to Autodesk language. So it'll take Faro scans, Leica scan file types, all this kind of information, and it converts it to that Autodesk language. And then we can bring it into Civil 3D, we can bring it into Inventor, we can bring it into AutoCAD, we can bring it into Revit, so forth. So I always like to bring those in here. Let's go back. Okay. So there's that. Let's go and bring this into Revit. I know we kind of took a tangent, but that's all right. These are good questions. All right, so let's take a look at this. We'll go and create a 3D view here, and then I'm just going to go ahead and insert point cloud. Which one have I been working on? Yeah, that'll be fine. I haven't done save yet. That's fine. So we'll do new front street, and we'll just leave default center. Okay, we see the point cloud is in here. Now notice it's not quite oriented to how our architects like it. Basically everything in Recap is associated to what they call a home scan. So whatever your first scan location is basically where everything is tied back to, right? So no matter if we're on scan 95, basically what Recap is doing is keeping track of, through its registration process, how it links itself back to the home scan. And let's go and jump over here to a different example of how I like how Register shows that. So we'll take a look at this waterfalling estate. Okay. Okay, so here we have a scan out out there in Hawaii, and we'll take a look at this bundle. Okay, so we can see each of those individual scan locations. Now here's a good example of like that roof scan up here, tying into this one here in front of the slide and stairs. So if we select that link, you know, we don't have great overlap here, right? So I wouldn't want just the scan to be linked to this one. Whereas this link here between these two scans, now we're up near a 50% overlap, okay? Those in there. And then I can also, like if for whatever reason that seemed to be messing up my scan was this link here, I can basically delete that link to here. So I can delete that. And you see that went away. Let's go back to our bundle. So if we rotate around, see that link is no longer associated to that one. So that's kind of a different visual way of looking at it to be able to do there, to be able to see those links together. And recap, it's basically the same process in registration, but it's from one scan to the next, or whatever scan you're tying those into. Okay, yeah, we're inserting this. Okay, so we got this on here. Let's go ahead and orient this to make it look good. So we'll switch to the east view. Okay, now notice here how long it took for that point cloud to load just the view here. That's because we have all this information together. Now, if we take a look at how big this might be. So if I go to the for recap in the properties here, you see we're up near 70 gigs worth of information. We also unified the scan for Revit. I'll show that here in a little bit, but basically cut that down more than half. So now it's down to 20 gigs in there. Okay. Actually, that's the one we wanted to insert. So let me just bear with me. Let me grab in, select links. We'll delete this one. And then now what we'll do is bring in the smaller point cloud and see if we have any improvement on loading times. So we'll go, there's my Dropbox, there it is. For Revit, and we'll do the smaller point cloud. Okay, so load it a little faster there. And then let's switch to this east view. Okay, it's loading a little faster there, but if we go in visibility graphics and go to the point clouds, here's where we see the benefits of organizing our point cloud within recap. Now we can just turn off anything we don't want to see. So I don't care about the roof, exterior, stairs. We'll leave the basement and floors on. Okay, so now we have those floors. Let's go ahead and turn off some more so we can go back in visibility graphics. We'll take off the third floor. Okay, so see how the third floor went away over there. Now as I'm moving in and out, it's working a lot better with the point cloud for me. So let's go ahead and move this up to the project coordinates. Now you see I did the move command here and it's looking to snap to point cloud. So it's already kind of built-in tools to be able to work with this data we're bringing in. So we'll go and bring that up and then we'll deselect the link, grab this, and we'll do a move. Okay, so we'll grab that and then we'll move this up to the level 2. And then let's kind of do the same on our floor plan view. Okay, we'll go and orient this to kind of a project north. So we'll go and select the point cloud, do a rotate. And then I don't want it to be from that first scan location. That's where it's looking to do. So I'm going to do place, and then I'll just grab this wall edge here and then rotate that around. Okay, and then we'll just grab this and move it to our center, basically our project center. Unselect links. Let's go ahead and grab these and move these out of the way. Okay, so now if we've now we got our first floor level set, second level, and we got our elevation set as well. We can add more levels here, but and then back to the 3D view as well. Okay, and notice as I set visibility graphics, these are just per view. So if outside all I wanted to see was maybe the exterior unified, I could do that. So we just see this, basically kind of a trimmed down version of the exterior. Okay, but when I switch to level 1, the visibility graphics are pertained per view. Okay, so all those are on, so we can turn most of these off because it's just dealing with the first floor. Okay, so now we can kind of zip around as well. And then also here on this first floor, if I'm, let's go ahead and model a couple elements here before we move on to the next thing. So over here, my properties, I'll go and edit that view range. So the bottom of the view range is the bottom of the point cloud. So we see the floor. For me, that's just distracting. So I'll just go and move that up for now. So that didn't change anything. All that did was just change my view range. So now let's just go and draw a few elements. We'll go and draw architectural wall, and I just did a default template, so I don't have a lot of accurate ones in here, but for these purposes, it'll be fine. Actually, let's go ahead and take a quick measurement on this. Okay, looks like we're at 6-inch wall. So we'll do an interior, sure, 6 1/8. And you see it wants to snap to the point cloud and everything like that. So we, instead of wall center line, we'll do finish face interior. And then basically I can just kind of draw in my wall. Okay. So pretty easy to start recreating all of this information. You know, walls, windows, doors, stair locations. We got nice because we've scanned both in the stairwell and the adjacent room. We have that void, or we know how thick that wall is going to be, and we notice that this wall is a lot thicker. It makes sense. It's a plumbing wall to be up in there. So we can model some of those elements. Oh, we had a door here. Let's go and throw in a door. So we'll go throw in a door, and then we'll flip that around. Okay. So we get those elements in there. Let's go and take a look at that in 3D. Okay, and we'll do visibility graphics, and we'll just turn off the entire point cloud for now. Okay, so we see the elements start to get recreated in here. And we took a look at, let's jump into BIM 360. Kind of look at a finished product. So we saw this waterfalling estate out there on the Big Island in Hawaii scanned. Now, if we take a look at BIM 360, we can take a look at that model. Okay, so we have the Revit model hosted here. Okay, so we can see all these elements within the Revit model were created based on that point cloud. Okay, we'll just kind of cut a section through here. So here we can kind of do a slice. So this is kind of a good example of, you know, what your deliverable type is. So we were taking a look at this warehouse. Notice there was a lot of stuff on the floor. Now, same thing at this house. There was a lot of furniture and cabinets and things like that here. So up here on the second floor is the kitchen. For this particular project, they didn't care about cabinet locations. So we just did LOD 200 for them. Modeling wise, left out all the kitchen cabinets, but you can see this void where the fridge goes. Okay, so basically they just wanted walls, windows, doors, and all that kind of information. And then there's also this round elevator that goes between all 3 floors. Okay, so there's some elements we can start doing. Now I wanted to kind of jump in. All right, so we saw how we can model some elements, but what about some of those odd elements? You know, a lot of architectural teams may have that one Revit specialist or one BIM modeler kind of person on their staff that may model different elements of equipment, things like that. So that may take them a while, but here's a little trick in here that we can go look at. So let's go and isolate just the first floor. And let's go and zoom in here. Let's get inside the scan. Okay, so we have a lot of information over here. Okay. So let's just say, all right, so we got this leaning door here. Let's just say I wanted to be able to, let's take that as table or maybe another element that we want to duplicate throughout this project, right? So one thing could be jump on, you know, look online for different Revit models for, you know, a leaning door of, you know, whatever. But let's go and isolate this. So we'll use some recap tools to be able to isolate this. So I'm going to do a quick little fence around this. Oops. I want the whole door. Okay, so that selected that. Let's go ahead and make a new region. And leaning door of today. Okay, and let's go ahead and turn off all points and actually we'll turn off these. All right, leaning door of today. Okay, so now we've just isolated this, but let's go ahead and clean this up a little more. So I'll go ahead and grab these elements and then I can move that to another region or just back to the unassigned. That's what I really want to do. I just care about the door. So let's grab that, put that to unassign. So hopefully you have good imaginations, but you know, you can see how this, you know, if this was a complicated piece of equipment that has lots of different faces and, you know, plugs and wiring and all kinds of different things that may take forever to be able to model in place. Okay, so now let's go ahead and clean this out. Okay, so now we've just isolated this leaning door with the exception of this piece here. Let's just take some time to do that. Okay. Oh, I see some questions here. All right. Let's see, Brian says, if you have time at the end, would you do comparison of recap photo and other photogrammetry? Sure, yeah, we can definitely jump into that. And if it goes over, Brian, I'll just kind of keep that going. I don't have a meeting scheduled after this. Ray asks, if you only have access to Revit, what options do you have to clean up the point cloud? Yeah, that's a great answer. So with Revit, with Revit, you should have a seat of AutoCAD, or sorry, not seat of AutoCAD, a seat of Recap available to you. I know Recap comes with the install base for AutoCAD and some of the other ones, or if you had the AE suite, you should be able to do that. So that's what I would kind of recommend, is seeing if you do have it available to install. So if you go to your Autodesk connector, no, not the connector, what am I thinking of? The Autodesk desktop app, you can see if Recap is in there in your products to be able to put that in there. So that's where I would start. If not, we can kind of take that offline, go and email me, and if you don't have recap as an option. But ideally, we would want to be able to clean that up in recap before you move that into Revit. I find it's the easier tool, and it's really built to handle point clouds, so we'll go that way. All right, Brian, does recap have keyboard shortcuts, such things as unassigning points? There's only a handful of keyboard shortcuts. If we hover over this navigation plane here, you see that zoom, pan, orbit all have assignment keys as well as fly, those kinds of things there. But no, there isn't really a switch between. It's kind of turn on and off. And next question, can points be in multiple regions? If so, you move points to unassigned, does that remove them from all regions or just the current one? Now, this is a great point, Brian. So be very careful when you guys are dealing with regions. I typically like to only have 1 or 2 in here. Now, I was just playing around yesterday to make sure that I had those in there. Kind of had some pre-baked ones in case this crashed or whatever on me. But yes, so if you have a region of points, so we know that this is part of the leaning door of today, but if I also made a new region of, door corner, that is going, the more you do that, that's really gonna start to slow down recap. And the reason for that is because it's all organized in these setups. So if we take a look at the support folder, the support folder has all these individual scans located in there, thumbnails, and all this information, basically telling it how it all ties together. And then it's also saying how your regions are assigned. So you're just, when you move things to multiple regions, the same points to multiple regions, you're just making recap go through, okay, this scan is part of leaning door of today, which is tied to scan 15, which is tied to scan 14, which is tied to scan 10, which is, all the way back to home scan. And it's got to think about all that. And then it's got to think about that for the second region you've assigned that to. So I stay very careful with the regions, just really isolate what those are. And then when I'm done with them, I get rid of them. So if you hit the X here, you can get rid of the region or the points and the region. And we'll hit cancel now. But for here, what I wanted to kind of showcase, so we have this door isolated. Now, I don't have to keep it on the, like I said, I don't want to keep this as a region. I don't want that to happen. What I want to do is export this out. So in recap, export is pretty great. So Control E will do export, or if you hover over home up here and go down to the up arrow, that'll export. So export basically takes almost a snapshot of what we currently see on the screen. Notice everything is turned off with the exception of this leaning door of today. So let's go and save that. So we'll do leaning door of today. And this is going to do a unification. So what this is going to do is strip out all the images. It's going to strip out all the unrelevant points and really just give me these, 500,000 points that are used to make this leaning door. So we'll go ahead and unify. That's what it's doing here. It's going to export. We'll give this a second. While this is exporting, any additional questions, thoughts? Okay, I see one here from John. We've had issues with regions affecting performance. Have you experienced the same? Yeah, John, I just talked about that earlier, but that's the reason why regions slow things down. Hopefully that explanation made sense, what I was talking about earlier. Yeah, no problem, no problem. So we'll let this export. And again, this was a fairly large point cloud. I think the next one will isolate it, and then I already have it pre-baked, so we won't sit and watch this exporting screen, but it shouldn't take too long. While we're looking at that, we'll take a look at my machine. So like I mentioned, I'm using a bin box here, but if we take a look at all the different processors I have going on here. So I have 16 i9s in here helping compute all this. Okay, looks like this is done. Okay, so now we can turn those back on. Let's turn back on the undone points, and let's grab one more item. Okay. All right, so I've already cleared out this one into region. Now, if we take a look at it, this is the back end of an airplane. This is pretty cool. But to be able to model this in Revit, you know, some that have used Revit for 15 years maybe fly through this, but me coming from a civil background, I've only got about 2 years experience in Revit. So I am not confident in my skills to be able to get all the curvature and things like that. But I did trim this out and isolate this. And if we do export again, I made an airplane RCP as well. Okay, so let's take a look at one of those. So we won't save for now. Let's take a look at the, actually we just did the airplane or the leaning door. So we'll take a look at that one. Okay, so here we have our leaning door, right? But now if I go into the stack, you notice that there's no scan locations, there's no regions, there's no view states, you know, nothing. So this is a nice clean point cloud. If we take a look at this file size. All right, leaning door today. All right, so yeah, we're not even, we're only at like 4 megabytes for point clouds. So that's pretty cool in there to be able to do those. So here in recap, what I have here, so we notice that we got, sorry, not recap, Revit, point clouds. So we've turned off the scan for now, but let's go ahead and bring in some of those other scans. So we'll do insert point cloud. And we'll go to that location. Oh yeah, webinar. All right, leaning door of today. Origin to last placed. So now we have that door in here, okay? And then let's also bring in the airplane, origin to last placed. So the reason I did origin to last placed is because remember when we first brought in this point cloud, we moved it and rotated it to project center. So now because we pulled it direct, we didn't change any of the coordinates or home scan or anything like that on this. So it was basically able to keep the same 0, 0. We'll go and let that load up. Okay, so now, you know, why is this cool? So let's take a look. We'll go this and we'll just isolate. If we go to visibility graphics, notice we have a couple different things in here. So we have our main scan. I can just turn that off and just leave the airplane and the leaning door of today on. And we have our model elements. Okay, so now we have this airplane wing, right? This might take a couple hours, if not a day, or you know, someone like me, if I might never ever be able to get this model correctly. But we have this here, and if I go select links and select this, it notices as a point cloud, but I can also copy this. So if I copy, say if I was laying something out, right? Let's copy again. We'll do multiple. So let's just say I was trying to space out my warehouse, set an assembly line or, whatever the case may be, I have those in here. I can copy those elements, without having to recreate and model something. I can just take an element out of my point cloud and move it around to a different location, maybe see what this looks like in my bedroom, maybe hang that outside. I have a lot of flexibility when I do that way. And then also kind of a neat thing here, when we go to point clouds, notice that there's a whole bunch of airplanes on here. Now, one thing I wish it would do is rename them. So it'd be nice to have airplane 1, 2, 3, 4. But as we can see, as we start turning some of these off, oh, those were the first ones. Oh, no, I'm not hitting apply yet. All right, so we turn off one, hit apply. So that got rid of that one. Apply, right? So, being able, and I can't, unfortunately, I can't rename these in there. So just kind of something to keep in consideration. But if you were to, if we go back to this leaning door, I can also do additional export, and then I can say leaning door of today, number 2, right? That export should be a lot faster, okay? So now if we have visibility graphics, point clouds, we have that. We'll turn off the airplanes for now. Hit apply and okay. So we have our leaning door here. Now if I bring in the point cloud, now I can bring in the second one, origin to last place, see that that's on top of each other. So I can just select this one, that's that second one, and move that around. Okay. And then when I go to visibility graphics, I have two different ones labeled, right? So that's kind of one way. Yeah, you can copy them around, but which airplane was it doesn't necessarily matter. I don't know, but that was just one thought had on there. Okay, so that's kind of copying that around. Let's take a look here. I know we're kind of coming up at the top of the hour, so let's see if we've missed anything. Okay, so we saw some benefits of having an organized point cloud. Hopefully that made sense. We talked about regions. We went through a few Revit tips, some modeling, and also that duplicating of point cloud items and modeling from scratch. So that kind of wraps everything up for here. I want to be very conscientious of everybody's time. So that's what I was going to cover, but I'm willing to stay on, and again, we'll keep recording this till I shut out the meeting. But what I'd like to do is go into like the photogrammetry side of things, recap photo and some of those. So we'll kind of extend this out, but if you're welcome to stay, but if you have another meeting you need to jump into, totally understand. But before you do, I have something. All right, so gonna be launching a poll. They just started doing this one, so if you wouldn't mind, just go ahead and vote on that. I opened up the poll, and then let's go and take a look at some of these questions. All right, so Sam asks, why are you bringing in components from Scan into Revit? Do you recommend keeping them as families or groups? When or why not? So like, kind of the thought there, so initially this came across as owner of our company. He has a wood workshop that he wanted to rearrange and make his workshop more efficient. So what we did was scan his workshop, and then he's like, okay, what would that look like if I had the sander over here in the southwest corner, okay, versus it being in the middle of the room. So what we did was kind of showcase without, here, we'll jump back into Revit. So what we kind of did was showcase this sander across the room in different locations without having to model a full sander element, like to be able to do that. So we can move and manipulate those around without moving and adjusting the rest. He's not going to move the walls or doors or anything like that. So that was kind of why there. Let's see. Recap have shortcuts. Oh yeah, we talked about that. Can points be used in multiple regions? If so, yeah, we talked about the unassigned points. Yeah, so again, be very careful. Regions, very useful tool. Oh yeah, one thing I did want to showcase in here. We'll go back to this new front one. Also, view states is very powerful as well. So I can set different view states. So if we want to set this as a view state, all I have to do is hit plus, and then we'll just say exterior for today. Okay. And if I double click, like on the airplane, for example, what I did here was, we'll turn off the mirror balls, get those out of the way. I saved that view state so I can just go back to this airplane. That was the only scan there. Or if I go to everything, this was everything. Or if I go inside floor, RV for real view, I saved those states. So you can, when you get to an area that you want to go back to, I'd recommend creating a few view states here. So we just got to update this cache. While that's loading, I'll look at the next question. How do you assign scans to scan locations or floors? Yeah, so that when this is done updating, I'll kind of show you that. And then, all right, so the poll is missing the option under learn more question of none. People, oh, I gotcha. Yeah, totally understand not wanting sales for that. Yep, and then yeah, if you just have something that you want to follow up, like with me directly, kind of avoid sales. Got my email address attached to the webinar, but I will throw that over here as well. So it's just jdevore at. Okay, so if you want to learn more about some other things or just kind of pick brain, or even if it's even if it's just say if it's more, so I have background in Civil 3D, but I've also not focused on it in the past 5 years. So I may be a little out of touch there, but we can talk to other techs, not only myself, but also kind of introduce and like kind of see what workflow you're struggling with, things like that. So yeah, so we have that real view here. And one great thing about view states is you can hit this play button, and what it'll do is switch between all views, okay, that we have set there. So I'll hit pause. You can also export that out as a video. So this is a great way to showcase your point cloud, rotate it around, isolate different floors, those kinds of things. So you can save it as MP4 AVI format, and also resolution up to 4K, okay, and export those out. All right, so scan locations. Let's just take roof, for example. So if I want to make another group, what I do is just grab that scan location. Come on. And I can, hold on, why is this not selecting? Oh, that's because I have this entered. Let's go and minimize that. Okay, so if I grab these scans, I can go drag them into each other, and then this is, roof 2 or webinar example. Okay, so that doesn't affect registration. All that's doing is telling how to organize it in there, right? And we can also pull those up to the main as well. Okay. So we can put that in between the second and third floor, or maybe I want that right above this other roof, okay? So that's how you isolate those ones, is basically a simple drag and drop, and then it creates a new folder, okay? Where can we review recording of this webinar? Yeah, so it'll be hosted on our YouTube page. If we go, so it's just, here we go. And weekly playlists. Yep, so it's just youtube.com/ATG on there. Also for that white paper I was talking about earlier, let's go, if we go to the website. Under resources and white paper, white papers. It's spinning up. And here was that one I was scanning comparison of the Leica scanners here, and then also more detail on the Be OK to Go, those kinds of things. Also global e-training and other things like that. All right, let's take a look at, let's go site scan. Okay, let's go here. Oh, hang on. Okay, so I know earlier we were talking about Pix4D and things like that. So we're partnered with 3DR, which currently got bought out by Esri recently. And they utilize, and they're partnered with Pix4D. So this is all being processed in Pix4D. Now, if we take a look at like a couple sites, so you can see flying all over the country as well, but we can take a look at all projects. Let's go, here we go. So we'll just kind of isolate this one. Okay, so here's a drone flight done. We can turn the ortho mosaic on and off. Looks like the photo was updated from there. Not too long ago, this photo hadn't updated. But yeah, this is currently using the Bing Maps in the background. And then we also have, you can see all the different photos that was taken. So this was flown in a kind of a double lawnmower pattern with the camera angle with an oblique setting so that it would be able to grab the building here and some of the 3D elements. So if we take a look at the point cloud here, minimize that. So we'll kind of rotate that around. So this is kind of loading in here. But one thing I really like about SiteScan in particular is the fact that it's all cloud-based. So I can upload all my photos, let the cloud servers process everything, and then I can also invite other users and customers and clients and things like that to be able to view this, and then they can go on and take a look at the site and things like that. So we can see this in here, taking a look at the point cloud, and then you can also, they can download those, so I don't have to download them to a thumb drive or throw them up on Dropbox. All I have to do is invite them to this project to be able to download the point cloud if they want. Also, there's a just kind of jumping all over here, but in the reality capture playlist, I have a handful of things in here. So a good example of recap photo, I would check out this video. It's only 5 minutes long. David did that, and basically all he's doing here is kind of showcasing the ground control points, but also did a I did a couple of them utilizing InfraWorks to be able to clean up the point cloud. So if we take a look at, so notice here we have a lot of poles and buildings and things like that. So in civil, we're looking for existing ground, right? But if we were to have Civil 3D or anything else try to do this, we might get a spike anytime we see one of these poles or vegetation or vehicles, those kinds of things. So cleaning up the tin would be a lengthy process in Civil 3D. And then in this video, we'll just leave that muted. I'll kind of jump ahead. In this video, showcase that, bringing that into recap, showcasing kind of how to clean it up, but then bringing it into InfraWorks. And then having InfraWorks do the point cloud terrain tools to be able to clean up the point cloud. So now if we look at that point cloud, you see it's removed a lot of the vegetation without me having to manually go through the tin files and things like that. So that'd be a video worth checking out there. I do a complete workflow. That was another webinar about, I want to say 2 to 3 months ago. Basically kind of did a full workflow from drones all the way through into Civil 3D. So that'll be listed on there. All right, well, that's pretty much what I have. Well, I'll let everybody get on with their day. Hope this was beneficial, and I'll see you guys next time. Have a good one.